Welcome everyone to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's pick a card reading is a fairly long range one. It's what's coming up for you in 2022. So I'm using a particular spread which I'm going to describe to you before we go to the pick a pile part of the reading, that I tend to use when I'm doing longer range readings for people. It is based on the astrology chart. And I'm just going to describe what each of the positions mean in terms of an astrology chart. If you're familiar with astrology charts and the natal charts and what the various houses mean, then you probably don't need to hear this introduction, because there's not much else to say beyond that this is the next 12 months and we're going to look at all the key aspects of your life. So you could jump straight to the pick a pile part of the video if you would like. But this is just to explain to anybody who wants to hear the introduction or who isn't so familiar with astrology charts how this reading layout works, because it's going to be the foundation of it. I'm going to use different tarot packs for each reading, and then I'm going to use one tarot pack, which is actually this one, which is the Stardust tarot pack, as a additional spiritual input to the reading after I've done the first layout, and then I'll use some oracle cards as well. But to describe this, basically the astrology chart is divided into 12 houses, which reflects effectively the 12 signs of the zodiac, and what each house is governed by or governs reflects the natural order, in a sense, from Aries as the first of the signs through to the last of the signs in the 12-month cycle. And so therefore the sorts of things in broad terms that the various signs govern tend to be a good explanation of what the houses govern. And I'm using what the houses govern as the key way of interpreting where the cards fall and what they're talking about. So to go through that, for those who are not familiar, the first house governs how you are seen by the world, your external personality, the way that you come across. It's quite often, whatever, if you do know your natal chart, the sign you have there is often how you physically look or how people see you. They may think you're that sign if they don't guess your sun sign, if it's not the same sign as your ascendant. So the first house in this is going to be how you seem to other people. The second house governs values, possessions, money. And in this reading, I tend to look at it as the internalized values that drive you. The third house is all about communication. The fourth house is who you are at your base level and who you are at home, and it is about matters of security and home and so forth, sometimes ancestry, family connections and so forth. The fifth house is love, romance and children, so I could pick up any of those three things. The sixth house is your day-to-day work, your service to others and sometimes health. The seventh house is all about relationships in general, so it can pick up romantic relationships that showed up a bit in the fifth house, but it can also be around family, friends, colleagues, and so forth. The eighth house is one of the two mysterious houses. It governs interestingly enough, other people's money and resources, life and death, the occult, intimacy, deep sort of feelings and deep passions. So it's a very interesting house. The ninth house is around travel, higher learning, your spiritual values. And in this reading, I see it as this externalized version of what we see as internalized values in the second house. The 10th house is all around your career in broad terms, who you are in the world, what you can manifest in the world, and so forth. It's the zenith of the chart, so it's in a sense your ultimate aspiration. The 11th house is around friendships, networks, communities, sometimes social media and so forth. And the 12th house is the sort of things that you keep private. It's often the depth psychology, the psychic house often, the things that are a little bit hidden either from you or that you keep hidden. So those are the sorts of ways that, or lenses through which I'm going to look at the cards that fall for each of the readings and how they interact across each other, to look at what some of the key themes for 2022 are going to be. Then, as I say, I'm going to use this particular deck to pull a few more cards just for any other information from Spirit before a choice of a number of oracle cards that I think can give some other depth and dimension to the reading and for what's coming for you in 2022. So If you have stuck with me through this introduction, hopefully that's made it clear about how the core part of the reading is going to run. And I'm now going to pause the video and set everything up for the next section of this video, which is where you get to choose your reading. So welcome to the choice of reading. So as always, I'm doing 3 readings. So pile 1, 2 and 3. So I'm just going to put down some numbers as well for that, for anybody who likes to anchor their choice in numbers. So I've chosen the World card from each of the particular tarot packs I'll use for each of the readings so that you get a sense of the energy of that tarot pack. It may help you decide which reading is the one that's calling to you. And I've used the World card because to me that has that sense of a whole cycle, and that's really what we're going to be talking about here. We're going to be talking about 2022 as a whole. So in various aspects, when we see key themes, I'm going to use a particular oracle to look at timing, where I think that might be a little bit unclear. Where I get the sense that things are occurring in sequence, I can tell you and so forth, but we are looking at a long range reading here. So some of the things that might come up may be much later in the year. And if they're things that you feel uncomfortable with, it may give you quite a bit of time potentially to move and course correct if you want. So I just thought the World was a good symbol of this type of reading, and also the circular sort of concept of the world in these cards makes me think of the circular concept of the astrology chart as well. So for pile number 1, reading number 1, I'm using the Cute and Creepy Tarot. For pile number 2, I'm using the Crystal Unity Tarot, and for pile number 3, I'm using the Dream Vision Tarot. So hopefully some of the energy of those cards will draw you, or the number may draw you. If not, pause the video, meditate, ask your guides, however you choose the pile that draws you the most. You're of course always welcome to look at more than one pile if you feel drawn to more than one. It could be that there are a combination of messages. It could be the career stuff is from one and the relationship from another or whatever. So you do whatever draws to you, but these are likely to be a little bit longer than the average reading that I do. So bear that in mind when you're choosing your pile and whether to go to more than one. It may be that if you have a second one up your sleeve, if you don't feel when you hear the first overview that it's really connecting, you can try the other one rather than taking up a lot more time than you would otherwise have to do. But you do you, whatever works for you. When you know which reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps as always are in the description box below, and I will see you in your reading. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So just push that up to make sure that you can see all the cards properly. So what I have done is I've laid out the cards. I shuffled and laid out the cards just before you would have clicked onto this reading, so that I had a bit of a chance just to kind of contemplate them before pressing record, because this is, as I said, a fairly sort of lengthy sort of reading, and it's a good idea for me to have a sense of some of the big themes first. That will kind of speed it up and make it a little bit clearer and more concise for you. What this is telling me, pile 1, firstly, is I think that 2021 hasn't been the easiest time for you. And I guess it's a very easy thing to say because 2020 and 2021 have been hard for a lot of people. So that's not sort of like a major revelation. But I think particularly for you around career and possibly also around relationships in terms of romantic relationships. So my sense is that in the latter, that maybe is relatively settled now, you're relatively ready. Whereas I think that for your career, there's a new uprush of communication, energy and ideas, and a push towards being more independent in some way. And I feel that that is going to take you out of a situation where you felt in conflict around career, your ambitions, what you were trying to do, and the amount of work you were putting into it compared to what you were getting back out of it. And I feel, therefore, with the Tower in the 7th house, that there are some major changes, I think, particularly around your work relationships and possibly leaving a workplace during 2022 or doing both that to go to another organisation potentially, or potentially to start your own business in some way. And if so, potentially creating a new sort of family connection for you. It's interesting because in the 2nd house here, so the 1st house here is the 9 of Pentacles, which is a self-made person. So there is a drive towards your own economic independence, and I think your own working independence. I do feel that most of you have been in a situation with the 6th house with the 10 of Wands where you've done a lot of work and put a lot of effort into things, and it's been quite exhausting, but not necessarily yet returning the investment that you want. But I think there's a real opportunity to do that in this year. But I think it does require a major restructuring of relationships and levels of responsibility, and possibly moving away from the value towards traditional, structured organizations, being an employee, that kind of thing, to being more your own person. With the 10 of Pentacles reversed in the 2nd house, it does suggest maybe investing money into something or taking a risk financially to some degree. I think it's a calculated risk. I don't think it's something really to be concerned about. I think that you will appear and be able to draw in the energy that you need financially around that during the year. But it does look as though you make a decision that security on its own is not the most highly valued thing for you. Community and a value connection is more important to you. A philosophical connection, a finding of your soul tribe, a finding of the people that you most connect with is more important. And I think for many of you that might be in some new business venture or certainly a different organization where the values mix is better. For some, this could occur regardless of your choice with the Tower there. The Tower could be a major change around the foundations of some of your relationships that require you to move on. But I think for most of you, it's a more conscious choice. It's just that it's possible that in doing it, you are breaking with the traditions of what people expected of you and the responsibilities that people have put on you. I feel like many of you have been in a situation in your workplace or around your career or in how you're presenting yourself in the world where it has been a matter of conflict, maybe not huge conflict. And this is, I guess, one of the tensions or the challenges of 2022 for you, because with the 5 of Swords reversed, the 5 of Swords like the 5 of Wands, they're both conflict-based energies. 5 of Wands tends to be very much a bit of sort of like argument and a debate and competition. 5 of Swords is often a clash of philosophies, ideas and values and so forth. But in both of them, the 5s are not massively conflict-based. They often can be a bit petty, or it can be like different perspectives and so forth. But the point of it, with the 10th house there, with the midheaven having the 5 of Swords reversed, that is you in 2022 moving away from that. Moving away from feeling that you have to battle with other people about what is of value to you, what you care about. And what you care about has a very strong values base. So it would be like someone moving from financial services where it was all about profit to work for a not-for-profit. Or somebody, as I say, moving from a very big organisation, which is very much about structure and hierarchy and rules and the bottom line, and moving to something that was more creative and more run by yourself and more at your own decisions and your own values. But certainly in the year, there is the promise of the potential to move into doing that. And it's after a lot of soul searching. This card in particular in the 4th house, so as I said in the introduction, this is about who you are at your base level. The 10 of Swords suggests you've gone through a hell of a lot of soul searching in 2021, a hell of a lot. Many of you have probably gone through a kind of dark night of the soul, to be frank. Like really at your base, you've questioned pretty much everything. You've questioned the choices that you've made in relationships. You've questioned the choices you've made about career, what you believe in, what you value, all of those things. And I think you've made a very big assessment that some of the things that you were loyal to or you put a lot of effort into are not true to you. They're not necessarily bad. See, the thing about this is, although I think with the Tower there, you will make some fundamental changes about who you connect with and who you are with in various types of relationships in your life, I don't feel as though it's necessarily that you've been in an awful position. I mean, some of you may have been very unfairly treated in a workplace, for instance, but I think by and large it's been more that you've really done deep soul searching, really gone into, are you creating in yourself the person that you want to be? Are you bringing in the right energy and so forth? And with the Ten of Swords, it's always that sense that the worst is over, you've done the work. So the Ten of Swords there being upright is good. It means that's done. But I do think at a very fundamental level, you've questioned whether you were betraying yourself, whether you were really being true to yourself, particularly if you put a lot of emphasis on money. So you're flipping the head of that in 2022. You're saying, no, I'm going to actually think about what is resource appropriate for me, like where do I put energy into that, and that's what I will show to the world, and where am I not going to let it trap me in any way, because my external values are much more people-centered, much more heart-centered, much more emotionally centered, and much more about values, as I say. Now, the good news about that is I think this Tower energy is bringing in a couple of things. In the 5th house, which is around creativity, children, and romance, I think with the 8 of Cups, there is also been some soul searching about what you want in relationships. And again, by the time you get to the 8 of Cups, you're ready to let go of that which is not working. So I think this soul searching has permeated everything. And I think in 2022, you're letting go of any emotional connections, or not even connections. I mean, some of you may be in relationships and you move on from them in 2022, but I think for many of you may not have been in a relationship for a while, or you haven't been as focused on relationships. Possibly you've been in a very long-term one. That doesn't necessarily mean if it's a long-term one, you're leaving it. I think you're just leaving that process of working out what is important to you, because in the house of intimacy, we have the 9 of Cups. So we have happiness and joy. So for some of you, this is like a rebirth of a current relationship, having done the work. And for others, it's something very new. And if it is something very new, with the Tower energy there, it could be a very significant relationship, one that really strikes you to the core, but will ultimately make you happy if you just allow it to occur, if you remember the lessons around relationships that you've got from the 5th house here. So Tower relationships, to me, can be the most extraordinary ones. They can be the ones that people talk about with twin flames, soul mates, all that kind of thing. But they are also just really intense. They're like when you come across a person, they just strike you to your core, and chances are this is reciprocal. The thing that I've found time and time again in readings is that when that occurs, both sides, in a sense, are both really excited about the other person, but they're also a little bit more scared about the other person than they would be if it was a more gentle or friendly type of romance that developed from a friendship. This is not likely to be, if it's a new relationship, a relationship that starts off as a friend and slow burn into something. This is likely to be something that really knocks your socks off. But it has a lot of potential to be really happy, as long as you're happy to have a relationship, because with the 2 of Cups reversed in the 12th house, you're a little bit gun shy of relationship. This is why I feel like most of you probably haven't been in a relationship for a while. And if you are, then it is possible, and this is fairly specific, but it is possible that some of you may be in a long-term relationship that is comfortable but not exciting, and something's coming along that makes you question, is this the relationship in the longer term? And that's a question that only you can answer, and it needs to be answered privately. Do you reaffirm the current relationship, or do you move and change with the relationship? But either way, it's a fundamental shift in how you want to relate. For many of you, I feel the energy that's coming in, if it's new, is picked up by the King of Wands. So that is coming through a social circle, a social network, social media, something like that. Very charismatic individual. This does not have to be gender-based, so you don't have to be a queen for a king, or even a king for a king. That doesn't have to be a man. But the energy of the King of Wands is charismatic, is warm, is creative. And I do feel there's something quite creative about you. But I think maybe the difference between you and this person, which might make you a really good match, is that you come first of all from your heart and from your values, and that's what you want to externalize. They come from their ambition. It's almost like the potential for a power couple, where one person is bringing the energy, the warmth, which is you, that draws other people in, and the other is bringing the drive to make something happen. It's very possible, I'm getting, that For some of you, it might be a relationship, and it doesn't, in this case, it could just be a friend if the king is just a friend, but there's a relationship that's key that actually makes you believe in yourself to do something more for yourself in some way during this year. Now, it doesn't have to be in January 2020 that you chuck in the job and you just go out without a plan. You would need to think this through. The ace here suggests that there is a new idea, a new approach, a new inspiration that is going to come to you through some form of communication. And again, this house rules the sort of communication with your networks and so forth. That's coming in, but it's at its very earliest stages. So the ace, I think all aces are blessings. So that's a very positive energy around communication for you and bringing in the new, but you need to do the work on it. You've done a hell of a lot of work on yourself, which is great, but you need to then allow the communication to come through and sort through what that really looks like. So I think for most of you, the major change, which to me looks like leaving almost an employee or a burdened type of service to others, but not necessarily feeling the rewards to yourself, to revolutionize the way you relate, particularly the way that you're seen in the world and how you deal with your career. So it's less about dealing with petty conflict and more about dealing with values. That's the key theme of 2022 for you, but it may well be that it takes all of 2022 to do that, because you don't want to. The risk of the Ten of Pentacles reversed is to throw everything up in the air on the first idea of something else before you've got a plan. So that there is a risk around resourcing if you don't plan and you don't take the time that you need to take. You don't want to lose the potential of moving to the Nine of Pentacles in the way that you're seen by the world. I don't think you're all that likely to do that. I think if anything, you're more hardworking. You probably put more effort into planning than you even need to. But in this case, because I think it's quite a fundamental shift that we're looking at, that's worth doing. As I say, if it's a relationship around you, then there is a significant shift around a relationship. There's a significant restructuring in how you relate. For some of you, and this is quite specific, there may be issues around the structure of a family relationship, or if you are in a long-term relationship, you've got children, you've got family. I'm getting with the Ten of Cups there in the House of Travel that there may be periods of time where you are apart from your family, or that members of your family are apart from you. I'm also getting like empty nest syndrome for some. So you may be in a situation where some of your children, for instance, have grown to adulthood and are now going off into their own lives or off to college or something like that. There's a possibility. It doesn't feel unhappy then at all. This feels very happy, and it's the right time for it, but it is also giving you more independence if that's the case. You're getting more independence. And maybe the challenge there might be, if the children have gone, it's the how you now negotiate your independence and time with your partner, because now both of you have more time than you had, but how do you actually use that time? So I get for some of you there's something like that. There's a shift around family relationships as well. But as I say, the key thing around this, picking up all of it, because we've looked to some degree at everything, is a shift from where you've put a lot of energy into others, into an organization and everything, to putting more energy into yourself and who you are, and into restructuring your relationships to be more happy. I'm also getting, actually, if this is around a business type of scenario, with the Nine of Cups in the 8th house, as I said, the 8th house is also around other people's resources. So it may suggest for some of you that you will get a really good opportunity to get seed money or seed funding. Or if you're looking at something like that, say, you want to launch something creative, a Kickstarter campaign could work very well for you. Other people's resources is likely to be a form of joy for you. And certainly, if you are in a long-term relationship that's splitting during this time, this looks as though the separation is not going to be corrosive or legally difficult or anything like that. So that's nice. I think you're in a phase of evolution, and it's because you've done the work already. You're in a strong position around relationships because you've really sorted through what was your stuff and what is other people's stuff. Okay, so let's see if Spirit has anything else that they want to tell you about 2022 in general using the Stardust Tarot before we start looking at some of the oracle cards that I have for this particular reading. Okay, so I think that the Stardust Tarot is picking up some of the same energy around what you're coming out of 2021 with the Four of Cups and the Five of Cups both reversed. It definitely suggests that you've looked long and hard into your emotional side of things. You've looked at what is emotionally relevant to you and so forth, and you're moving out of a sense of being a bit stuck in, I think, working for other people emotionally or in your career or whatever, that it's stuck, got you a bit stuck about what you cared about and what you really wanted to put energy into. And you're also letting go of any pain or things that haven't worked out. I do have this sense like 2020, 2021, maybe something happened in your career, maybe something happened in relationships, maybe it happened across all aspects of your life potentially, where maybe you felt a bit betrayed, or you felt a bit let down, or you felt that there wasn't a reciprocation of the energy that you put in, but you really have sorted it through. You really have done the work to do that. You've really brought it into balance with Temperance, and I think Spirit really wants to congratulate you on that. And it says because of it, when the time comes to make the decisions, you will be able to make those decisions. You have done the work to have great clarity for that. So don't doubt yourself, because there's a little bit of doubt sitting there in the 12th house with the Two of Cups reversed. There's a little bit still of you thinking, have I got the balance right between what I need and what other people need? I think this is saying you really have, and you don't want to get caught back in patterns where you put more energy into things and feel emotionally not as supported or romantically as supported or whatever. You really have. So Spirit is saying, recognize that, honor that, recognize the balance that you've brought. So because there will be times where the decisions you need to make fairly quickly in this year. So when ideas or offers come through, but don't make them rashly. Make sure that you're ready, make them at a time that suits you, but know that you've done the work to have a really accurate view of it. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the other energy around you. So I thought I'd draw a couple of cards intuitively for this around astrology, just for some other astrology energy to see what else is permeating the year for you. Okay, so I think firstly this is pointing to the 12th house, and it's telling us that that card is very important. So the 12th house, as I say, is all about the depth psychology. The ruling planet is Neptune. If you are across your astrology chart, maybe watch transits of Neptune during 2022. That might be quite important for you. The ruling sign is Pisces. You may be Pisces or have Pisces strongly in your chart. You don't have to. But it is definitely saying this issue, which may be the one thing that's still a bit unresolved, because most of the rest of it looks pretty resolved actually, is about your balance of relationships and what relationships you want. That is going to be a key thing. What is it to be in a balanced and good relationship in any aspect of your life? And what might you need to articulate with the Ace of Swords there? What might you need to make clear that maybe for the peace or to be friendly or not to hurt someone's feelings you haven't said before? So really think about that in terms of the impact of on relationships, the ones that matter to you in the decisions that you're making. We also have the waxing gibbous moon, which is about adjustment, clarifying your direction and intention, and then it's acceleration in the final stages. So again, it's confirming what I'm saying, this feeling that you've done a lot of the work already. Something is going to come through that you can make decisions on, and you're heading towards something where you start to identify your direction rather than the direction that other people have required of you over the last few years or possibly through your life so far. Okay, so another couple of cards that I drew for this were from the Heart Code Oracle. So one for relationships and one for career, because I often in these readings, those two things are almost like two of the key things that are the big themes in a year. So for relationships, we have validation, and for career, we have boundaries. So that's why this is pointing to the 12th house, part one. It's that you do need to make sure the validation is what you want and not the validation of other people. You will find that you upset less people than you expect and you get much more support than you expect, but you mustn't make your decisions based on what other people want of you, because you've put a lot of energy into that. You've put a lot of energy into being what other people want you to be, providing for other people. You care a lot for other people. You're a very, very values-based person. But if you look for validation in what you're doing, then that could that could hold you up. Having said that, I do think someone is coming, as I say, whether it's a love relationship or whether it's an admirer in another sense, or someone who's a support or a patron. And that validation, I think, will come to you. It will give you an offer. It will give you an opportunity to do something. When that happens, the only thing you need to be aware of, and this is maybe in general as well, is boundaries. So don't move from one scenario where maybe you, and this is just an example, we're an employee and doing a lot of work for the organisation, to moving into another one where you're maybe your own boss, but you've got so much beck and call from everybody who's got expectations of you that you don't have the time also for enjoying your life and enjoying the people around you. So make sure that in all your relationships and all that you do, you set appropriate boundaries right from the beginning. That's probably part of the point about why Spirit wanted to congratulate you on your balance. It's saying back yourself on that. Your judgment will be good on that, as long as you don't doubt your motives. Because you could, on occasion, and maybe you've gone through a process with the Ten of Swords down in the 4th house, you might have felt guilty. You might have already started the process of separation from some people in this last year, and you felt guilty about it, but you've moved through that. And remember, you've moved through it, and that you just need to make the choice that has the right boundaries for you. Let's have a look at what angelic or spiritual energy will be watching over you during 2022. And we've got Archangel Raguel, which is about relationship healing and about calm and harmony. So yes, you've definitely been in a much more conflict-based scenario in the last couple of years. There may still be some conflicts as you separate and redefine yourself, but Archangel Raguel is going to be there to support you and to help you, particularly with those decisions in the 12th house, and to help you trust your judgment and trust yourself. So I think that's good, because I do think a lot of this is going to be around career, but some of it may also be around the structure of family or romantic relationships. And you've done a lot of work, and I think that's why the Archangel is there, to complete that cycle and make sure that you create new things for yourself that are really supportive. Let's also have a look at some colour energy around you. Okay. So firstly, we have purple, which is dignity, nobility, and prominence. So you're coming into some degree of sovereignty of your own life in this, in 2022. You are going to do that, and you're going to really be seen more as the leader, more as the manager, more as the boss, more as the self-made person, and less as the person who just worked for others or anything like that. You're also establishing some sovereignty and some sense of importance within the relationships you have. Now, it's interesting over here with moss, because we've got breeding, growth, and reproduction. So for some of you, this is going to be the growth of the career and the growth of the independent person. And for some, it's going to be operating ironically, because, as I said, I think for some people who come to this reading, there could be empty nest syndrome or whatever. So there could be the separation and renegotiating the boundaries around your family, children, and what you've created in that sense. But for others, you may be starting a family. This is telling me that there's another way of reading some of these cards, which is that you may, in fact, become far more independent from a really career-oriented lifestyle and a money-oriented lifestyle, and move into a family-oriented lifestyle because you are starting a family, or you meet someone really significant to you and you want to do that, in which case that's very positive around being able to do that. And then I think the 10 of Cups is you valuing externally the family and what you can build in that way in the year. And again, you do need to make sure that you have the right balance in your relationships, but that looks as though that would be the case if that's the way that works out. Okay, so let's have a look finally at some timing around this. So I think things I want to ask for timing, there's a couple. The first is I want to ask some timing in the year, and it may say something longer than a year, in which case it's the beginning of something that builds over a longer period of time. But some timing in the year for when you make decisions around what you do in terms of career. And then I'm going to ask a subsidiary thing around key timing for relationships. So first of all, career. Okay, so it says in the near future, so time to recalibrate. So I think that is showing that these decisions that I think are around money, values, and so forth, and how much effort you're putting in are coming up relatively early in the year. I would say in the first quarter, you will have some inkling, you'll have some communication around it. Possibly the king could be a new boss or a new potential business partner that comes on the scene. But whatever it is, it says that in the near future around your career, you'll need to recalibrate, you'll need to rethink what you do. But I do think Spirit's been saying you've done the work, the underpinning for that, so that's very positive. So let's also ask what's some of the key timing in the next 12 months around relationships. Okay, so it says patience is key and a timed surprise. So I think that works on a number of levels. I almost feel like patience is key. If this is around changes in an existing family or a relationship and really sorting through that and potentially sorting through the impacts of the changes you're going to make in your career, you may have to be a bit patient with people. They may not instantly come along for the ride, but I don't feel like the Tower is going to be so ultimately destructive. I think it's just changing in a revolutionary way for you. So that's one thing. The other side of this is for those who this reading is pointing to a new significant relationship coming in. I don't think it's in the early part of the year. I think it may be almost come about as a result of career changes or other lifestyle changes that you make in the earlier part of the year. So you will need to be patient if you're waiting to access that energy. And it has a timed surprise, which makes me think it might be something that comes into your life around something else that is maybe a regular time for you. So maybe it's around your birthday potentially, or around a significant anniversary, or around the changing of the seasons or something like that. It's sort of a weird combination where it's got timed, which feels like it's something regular, and then surprise feels like it comes out of the blue. So my feeling is that whatever is in here around relationship, particularly if it's a new relationship, then it's probably in the second half of the year, and it'll be connected to something else that has some timing implications for you. So Pile 1, I hope that gives you a good sense of some of the key things that are coming up for you in 2022. I actually think it's really positive because I think you've really done the hard yards already, and I think there's a lot of promise for you, so that maybe by the time we get to the 2023 reading, you'll be really strongly positioned as who you want to be in the world, and we can really see even more growth and benefits from that. But whatever it is, it feels like 2022 is you in the driver's seat. You are navigating your way forward and you are ready to do it. Absolutely. So it's sort of hashtag driver's seat for Pile 1 for 2022. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you have any comments or thoughts about this, particularly the work that you've done to position yourself for this, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome Pile 2 to your reading. So I've laid out the cards. I shuffled and laid out the cards in the horoscope spread, and I've just contemplated them briefly before pressing record, just so that I can dive straight into what I think some of the key themes for you are. And I think one of the key themes for you in 2022 is owning your own power. There's actually a lot of power in this spread, a lot of power in you, and also power issues that I think that you either deal with in 2022 through others or that you possibly have been dealing with. And the reason that I say that is, firstly, in the first house, you're coming across as the Queen of Wands. Now, this doesn't have to be about gender. It doesn't matter what gender you are. So that shows that to the world, you are very self-confident. You're very self-actualized in 2022. You know who you are. With the cat, the black cat that's always with the Queen of Wands, you have a sense of your own shadow as well. And I think that's important for you because I feel like you really do deal with power, really material power, and possibly political or philosophical power as well in some way. And so it's important that you are able to recognize that in yourself. It's sort of the authentic leader there. And I think in one or more aspects of your life, you come across that way. I'm getting that for many of you in your friendship circle, you're the sort of go-to person for the understanding of the dynamics of something, or for the true and honest and supportive viewpoint. But this hasn't come easily to you. I think you've struggled around power issues and, the correct use of power probably for most of your life, right from childhood, right from the family, with the Emperor reversed. And I think I feel like the Emperor reversed there is both an awareness within you about the importance of being eternally vigilant about the use of power, because I feel like it's showing in the fourth house an enormous amount of power that you have, but that you are very, very aware, you're very finely attuned to the fact that you need to hold that in strict regulation because you have seen it abused by others. It is possible that some of you have seen it abused within a family scenario or around close friendships or even in a relationship, because it's right at the core of you. You really know that. You really do know the shadow that the Queen of Wands has tamed and made her friend. And yeah, that kind of thing does not come about if you haven't experienced it, seen it, and understood it in your life. And whether it is just the last year or so that you've come across this, I feel for most of you it's a pattern in your life. It's always going to be a pattern in your life, because the 10th house and what you're moving into in 2022, but which I think you've been developing towards for quite a long time, with it being the King of Swords there, is a righteous, strong, philosophically pure, balanced, fair sort of leadership position. Some of you may work in the law or in science or something very academic, maybe something technological, but whatever it is that you're working in, however you are in the world, you are seen as an authority figure, the person who understands the drives of people, but also understands the philosophy. And that is going to pay off for you in 2022. I think it's going to pay off in a major way in terms of resourcing. But you are working with others. You will be working with other people's money, and you will be working maybe as an employee, therefore, but I would say fairly senior in an organisation if that's the case, or you'll definitely be developing towards that over 2022. But you will still be a leader and a thought leader in this period of time. People recognise in you, with the Seven of Pentacles around relationships, that you know how to grow, nurture relationships, business, money, all of that sort of thing. You have a relationship connection to money and to business. It is something you naturally understand, and you're naturally very clear on the rules, regulations and so forth around it. You do potentially work with other people's money. You're not working on your own resources with the Nine of Pentacles reversed in the 8th house. It does suggest that you connect with others for that. I think some of you may work in financial services or something like that as well too, if you're not in the legal area working around the distribution of resources potentially. Then maybe you're in financial services, but you're working with, I think, potentially large sums of money. If that doesn't relate to you, then it's more around resources on a not monetary level, but on a more sort of earthy sort of level. Some of you, in fact, may be bringing a scientific approach towards health issues for people. You may work in the health sort of industry, or you may work in alternative therapies, particularly with the Nine of Pentacles reversed there. It's a little bit less conventional. But if so, you're very, very clear. The science that you use is very, very clear. And you're very dedicated to your work. You're someone, you don't mind if it takes a while. And I think for many of you to reach this point, it has taken a while. The Knight of Pentacles moves a bit slower than some of the other knights, but it's sort of slow and steady wins the race. And this is a year where the effort that you've put in and the precision that you've brought to it is really going to be recognised in some way. And you're really going to take great strides for that. And what you do, and this is why you are so fair and just, what you do is in service to others in one form or another. And so you're ready to go out into the battle. In fact, you enjoy the battle. You enjoy the battle because you do not like bullies. You do not like bullies. You do not like people who misuse power. You're very, very aware of that, and you're more than a match for it whenever it happens. You are very emotionally authentic in the way that you communicate with other people. They trust you, and they should. You are very, very, very trustworthy. And if you have felt that that hasn't been seen before, then you're going to find it is seen much more in 2022. Like, those qualities that you have are going to come forward. You may have some choices about where to put your energy and what battles to go into. And with the Two of Pentacles reversed, you're not really 100% sure about that. I would say if that's the case, if you come across some things where you're trying to determine what is right and what is wrong, look at the power relationships underneath it and look at what's driving the external competition value there. Because if it is about excellence and developing something and becoming first in class and all of that sort of thing, that's great. If it's about subjugating others, taking control over things and so forth, then that's not going to fit with who you are. So there's some real moral lessons, but you're like that all over, pile 2. You are someone who morality around power, money, relationships and so forth is always going to be an issue, but you're very much focused on growth and investment and building things. Now, I do feel that there's someone in your social circle who's going to be potentially important to this. This could be a boss, even though you're both coming up as the King of Pentacles, because over here I'm feeling in the 8th house with the 9 of Pentacles reversed that you're more likely to be in an organisation than working on your own. Though it doesn't preclude you working on your own, but if you aren't, I suspect you need the input of stakeholders or seed money or something with that card there. But this is either a peer or a boss. This person is also very materially focused. You are just that bit more philosophically focused, even though you're very, very good around anything material. And this person really appreciates the fact that you're really good around things that are material. Maybe some of the choices you have to deal with in this year is going to be around when that person really just wants it to be all about the bottom line and you want it to also be around the values and to take on the right battles. I don't think there's a lot of tension between you, but maybe possibly there might be sometimes. Now, the one aspect of your life that I think you're going to need to look at fairly, because I think this is going to almost sort itself out really materially and who you are in the world. The one area that's a little bit challenging, I think, in the next 12 months is maybe around relationships. Not relationships in general, but more romantic relationships or potentially children, and I'll get to the children bit, but let's go with romantic first. It looks to me like you may have been in a relationship or been alone, like either been in a relationship that didn't work out all that well in the last 12 months or so, and you're carrying a certain amount of regret and a sense of loss around it, or you've been alone for quite a while. And so in your private life, maybe you've put a lot of your relationship and love energy to the side and been a little bit sort of privately disappointed in yourself because it was about creating who you were in the world and your career. You might have put so much energy into your career that it's not really allowed you time for love. You might also be young and you might be developing yourself, and a lot of this energy may be study and so forth, like really getting the building blocks of your career, and you've really started to achieve something and get where you needed to go with that. And you're sort of reflecting, I think, in 2022 around what is left and what can I move forward with in relationships, because the 5 of Cups has always got a couple of cups upright while the others are sort of empty, and usually the figure is really concentrating on the ones that are empty rather than seeing the ones that are still there. If you've been in a relationship but you've neglected it, or you felt you've neglected it because of your career, or if for some other reason it's been under stress, there may still be a resolution of it, but you need to go within and face that and look at that and work out what that means. Because with the Page of Wands reversed here in the 5th house, it looks to me like, as I say, you've either been in a relationship that had a lot of promise and a lot of passion, like a lot of real attraction, but maybe with it reversed, it's not moving forward to what you wanted it to be. Or you may come across a new relationship in 2022, and the fundamental question for you will be, will it do that? Because you're very achievement oriented. You like the material, you like the things that are solid, the things that you can say, this is part of my life, this is part of who I am. And I think you see relationships in a similar way. So you want to find the relationship that kind of balances and supports what you're achieving on a material level, and you want that kind of loyalty as well, because you'd be very loyal within a relationship. So I think there's a few ways of reading that for some who've come to this, you may come across a new passionate relationship in 2022, but you may have to give it time and be patient to see whether or not it's really going to flower into something that's long lasting. And you need to be prepared to risk the disappointment if it doesn't, if you want to test that out. or you may be getting over a relationship that didn't work out and trying to work out whether it can be revived on some level. Or if you've been alone for a while, you may be a little bit gun shy about whether to commit to dating again or something like that. There's something around relationship there which it's not quite in line with your work. So it's either that you have felt you neglected relationships in general, even one that you're in for a while, and you're reconfiguring that, or there's a new relationship or one that you want to restore that you're not sure about whether it's going to be as secure as I think your career and your money and all of that sort of thing is. So it could be that. The other thing too with the pages can also be children, and this house, it also governs children. So for some of you, if you have a child, you may be having some tension or some disputes or debates with that child. With the Page of Wands, the Page of Wands is always really starting to come into who they are. So it would be likely to be in an age where one of the developmental stages, let's put it that way, where independence is being asserted. So it could be, they say the terrible 2s and 3s, or it could be, a teenager, or it could be, somebody who's got to the point where they can go to college or leave home or whatever. If this resonates, there's a developmental issue there, and there's some issues around how to manage that. There'll be a little bit of pushback. It's not major. It's not something to be too concerned about. And if you are, the other thing I'm getting is if you are trying to start a family, it may take a little while if that's the case. It's a matter of patience, and not to get, the health is really good, and the longer term capacity around that is really good, but it may take a little while if you are trying to start a family. So those are the key messages coming from the astrology spread. So we'll now use the Stardust Tarot to just get some other cards, asking from Spirit if there's any other sort of key messages from Tarot that are appropriate for 2022 for you, pile 2. Okay, for a start, we've got some similar cards. We've got King of Swords twice. We've got Knight of Pentacles twice. So what interests me here, and that'll mean these houses are very important, which I'll get to. But what interests me is that the King of Swords is reversed here, and then we have the Ten of Pentacles, which is about the sort of established resource world. And then we have the Knight of Pentacles, which has a lot of work. And then the Knight of Wands, sorry, I'll move this up so that you can see it a little bit clearer. The Knight of Wands, which is about action, ambition, sometimes acting before thinking, and so forth. I think what Spirit is pointing out here, and this might have to do with the balance of power and so forth, is that sometimes you will take on a cause and rush into it if you think there's injustice. This is the first thing. And I think if that's the case, Spirit is saying that that's an okay thing to do, because you will still have the stability resource-wise, and you will still be very much seen as dedicated to what you're doing. So if this is picking up a battle that you have to have around legalities or ethics or something like that, you're well positioned in 2022 to do it. On the other hand, if this is picking up you and it's saying what would take you off the course of being the King of Swords the right way up is being too focused on just the bottom line, you need to bring that passion in for what you do. I think that's the other side of it. And I think it's picking up this Knight, the King of Pentacles and the King of Swords. The people that you're working with and developing with, they need to have the same values as you. They can't just be about the bottom line. Just because I think you're absolutely freaking brilliant when it comes to money and things like that, that's not really who you are. So I think the one thing that would take you off course and make you feel potentially that Emperor reversed energy was triggering is if you felt you were only working for the dollar. You will make money. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But you also want to make a difference in some way. And I think you're very ethical. I think there's a very strong sort of moral and values-based thing that you need to also do to keep that King of Swords the right way up. Okay. So let's have a look at some of the oracle cards that were intuitively chosen for you for 2022. So we're just going to start with a couple of astrology cards to see what else Spirit has to say from an astrological point of view. Okay, I'm going to get some more cards for this because that's actually an aspect and I want to see the planets that are involved. But before getting to that, we have Neptune. So Neptune is the idealist, and I do think you are an idealist. I think you're absolutely brilliant, to be honest, intellectually really off the charts. I think you're incredibly good, as I say, with manifesting with money. But at core, you are the battler for what is right. You are the knight. You are the hero on the hero's quest. And I think your idealism is going to really come to the fore. I think there will be some opportunities to fight the battles that you want to fight and to really establish this sort of order that you want to establish in 2022. This Neptune could also be picking up a bit around the relationship. If that's the case, it suggests that at first, whatever this scenario is not clear, and allow it time to become clear. And sometimes, because the tarot card that governs Neptune is the Hanged Man, try and take a different perspective. If something seems perplexing or doesn't feel emotionally right, look at it from a different perspective. Okay, so sextile does suggest really good energies for you in 2022, which is what I think. There's a lot that's going to come to fruition, even though I think, as I say, it could have been hard won and through a lot of power battles and so forth. But let's see what the energy around fortune, compatibility and flow is for you in terms of the planets. So I'm going to just shuffle the pack and then I'm just going to deal out until I get a couple of planets or asteroids to give us a little bit more information. Pile 2. We go on really quickly. Venus and Pluto. Okay. So I do think this is picking up the relationship sort of energy around you. So Venus is all about love. It is also about beauty and balance and justice, and I think that you definitely evoke that. And it is, the tarot card is the Empress, which I think is around abundance. So I think it's really supporting again that you will be able to really manifest things. But we have Pluto, which is also transformative. Actually, I'm getting two things from this. One is around relationships. I think that there is a transformative relationship that you'll need to give time for and to be clear about if you aren't in a relationship or you're dealing with something like that coming through from 2021. But it is a transformational one for you in terms of how you love and how you connect. So that's really key. But I'm also getting that your love nature is a broader sense. It's for the world. It's for what is right. And I do think some of you will have a significant battle, but I think you're going to win it very easily, but a significant transformative energy around power. I said it right from the beginning. I think some of you are going to affect a change in a workplace, in a political environment, in a legal environment, something like that, that brings more balance, beauty and love back into the connections of things, allows real growth, not the Emperor reversed energy, which I think you carry with you as a memory of something you've gone through. It's like you're never going to forget that. It's like you went through something and it's almost like you carry a black handkerchief in your pocket, and that is always your reminder that that's the case. Or you wear a ring on one of your fingers and that reminds you of a time. It's that sort of feeling of something significant and powerful to you, and I think you're going to bring that into being in some way in 2022. So I also pulled cards from the relationship and the career oracle decks from the Heart Code oracles, because I think often in 12-month readings they're two of the key areas to look at. So for relationships, we have stability, okay, and in career we have compromise. Okay, so I think there's a few things this is telling me. Number one, it suggests whatever this issue is, you will sort it out. And one of the things that will help you decide if it's something that you want going forward is whether it is going to be stable in the way that you can create stability in your workplace and in the experience of other people around you and the relationships that you have. It is going to be a core element of what makes you to make the decisions around relationships. And with the Venus-Pluto sextile energy, if you have to transition a relationship, be it romantic or otherwise, to make it more stable. It feels like there is an ease of energy to make that transformation. But it's not without compromise. And the compromise, however, is more in your career. And I do think this is picking up whoever this King of Pentacles is, or whatever that King of Pentacles energy. The compromise between the bottom line and the philosophy. The compromise between the correct use of power and the collaboration with others. I do think you are very strong, you're very powerful. And one of the things you have to be aware of is that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do, the most right thing that you can do, is to compromise rather than just become the dominant person in the room. So I think there is something there. And in doing that, you'll make all your relationships more stable around you. Okay, let's see what goddess or archangel or other spiritual sort of support is around you in 2022. And we have Archangel Chamuel. So it's about unconditional love, heart healing, and self-love. Well, if you're not at the Queen of Wands already, pile 2, if at the beginning of this you thought, I don't feel that confident, you're going to be in 2022. Some of your journey around balancing the power, understanding your manifestation, and sorting through your relationship issues is going to bring you to a sense of unconditional love, both for others and for yourself, and heart healing. So if this 5 of Cups was carrying in something that was a disappointment emotionally from the past, I really think you are going to heal, and you're going to decide around the romantic side of things, if that's sort of in dispute for you at the moment, whether this is the right relationship for you or not, whether you want to choose to move forward, because you've become very clear on who you are. And I think your example is going to be an example for others as well. Let's see what color energy is around you. This is nice. So we've got orange, which is enthusiasm, fun, and vitality. That's very much the energy and color of the Queen of Wands. So people enjoy being around you for all that you carry a lot of heavy stuff. You know how to have fun. You know how to be vital. You know how to make things grow and so forth. So this is also a year that you can enjoy. You can reap the benefits of your own work and your own brilliance, to be honest. It is saying, though, don't overwork, because you're very dedicated to your work. Take time out for relaxation, sleep, and surrender with cerulean. You need to sort of recharge those batteries because you run on high. And if you're in a battle of some sort, then you definitely need to take your time out and get some sleep. Okay, so to close out the reading, I want to have a look at some timing. So I'm thinking for this, the first thing to look at is when is this maybe key battle or issue that you're going to sort of, negotiate, battle, compromise on? Like, what's the sort of timing around that? And then I think I might do something around the timing around resolving and answering the question, whether this is around romance or a child or whatever it is, around your relationships. So, because there is a transformative side around relationships for you. So firstly, Spirit, can we have some idea around the timing of this really key next step in the career and how pile 2 is in the external world? It's a little bit contradictory, I have to say, because it's saying January, but there's no rush. So what I think that is saying, actually, taking all the humour out of it, is that I think you're going to really have a sense right from the beginning, probably because you've done the work, about the prospects, the opportunities or whatever. They're coming in straight at the beginning of the year, but there's no rush in building them. And that fits with the Knight of Pentacles going a bit slower and being considered. It fits with the 7 of Pentacles, building the relationships. So I think it is saying that this opportunity is coming in. You are well prepared for it. You will recognise it early in the year, and you just move towards it in a slow, steady, sensible, clear way, because its success is assured, I would say. So, okay, let's ask also from Spirit around the sort of heart healing, the relationship issues, the clarity around that. What sort of timing are we looking at? Okay, so deal with the career stuff first. It's saying not a good time to start with, and I think that's connecting to January. So there's still stuff you need to find out. There's something that you need to find clarity to. That's why we had Neptune there, I think. It was picking up a lack of clarity. But in 5 to 6 months, you'll be in a better position to work out what this means for you and whether this is a relationship that you want or whether it's a relationship you can salvage. Or if it is something around a child that's dealing with things developmentally, it's kind of saying let them let them sort out things for themselves to some degree, only have minimal sort of input around that. Let them start to express who they are, and maybe in about 5 to 6 months you'll be able to come to the compromise that was around some of the other energy. But overall, this is a very powerful year for you, 2022, and I think a very successful one, very productive. The relationship energy is a little bit more tricky than the material energy, but I think you have everything that you need. It's just to make sure that you understand your power, and therefore that you don't inadvertently, become a little bit, not overbearing, but maybe a little bit sort of threatening or intimidating. That's the word I'm looking for with other people. I think as long as you're clear about that, and you keep the warmth and the fun in things, as well as all the sort of growth potential, you can't go wrong. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 2, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and let me know in the comments if this resonates. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So I shuffled and laid out these cards in the astrology chart structure to get a bit of a sense before pressing record, to get a bit of a sense about what I think some of the key themes are going to be for you in 2022. And this is a major year. This is a really major year. There's a major year of change. There's a major year of you moving away from things that are no longer working and moving towards things that have much more promise. It's a year where you may break conventions, where you are possibly going to be misunderstood, where you will have an enormous amount of strength and energy around what you believe in, but you are holding your own tongue on occasion when it is necessary. You are extremely well connected to what is happening in the zeitgeist in some way, or what is happening around fate, and this is a fated change, and you're very psychic, very connected to the collective. That's what makes it quite challenging, but you are coming from your heart, and you are a transformative person, and you see the value of transformation, I think, before other people. And I think that you value freedom more than anything, and sometimes people do not understand that. So let me take this step by step. It's sort of like the classic thing for a major change agent, but I think in some aspect of your life, and this could be around relationships, it could be around career, it could even be that your entire life in 2022 is about shifting from something old that was no longer working into something that is new, a different philosophy, a different approach, a different belief structure. Some of you could leave a religion, a spiritual practice, an organization that have very strict rules. There's a very strong revolutionary energy here, but it's like the iron fist in the velvet glove. You understand that you have to moderate your power because it's significant, and you also understand that the price of this change will be for a period of time to be misunderstood. Because with the King of Swords reversed and the King of Cups reversed in the how you are in the world and relationships, it looks as though people may accuse you of not being true to something, not being committed to something, not being emotionally available. It's like it could be the essence of someone stepping away from society altogether for a while to go into a spiritual journey, a kind of shamanic sort of energy. It's very powerful, but it's people are going to try and make you feel guilty, but they won't be able to manage it. You will be able to understand it and see this sort of white noise for what it is, possibly because in the process of getting ready to move away from what wasn't working in your material world, and this could be career, it could be relationships, it could be anything. As I say, for some of you, this is the community that you're in that is no longer right for you, that you need to be less conventional for. For some, it could be religious. For some, it could be anything. Political, you could be moving, literally crossing the floor. If you're a politician, you're almost crossing the floor from one side to the other. And it does bring with it, and you know it's going to bring with it, a sense that some people will misinterpret you and maybe misrepresent you. And some people will think that you're emotionally distant. you will communicate a very solid, sound reason for why you're doing things, but some people may misrepresent that as being you're all about the money or you're all about material stuff. If you are, pile 3, if you are leaving a spiritual group, for instance, you may find that some people say that you're doing it for material reasons, that you're no longer spiritually pure in some way, something like that. That's the kind of energy that I get from those sort of cards. There's something around spirituality or rules, regulations, the established, the traditional, that is getting overturned in your life in 2022, but you have known that this is coming and you are prepared to do what you need to do. You've understood there's something better to go towards. You've sorted through the sense of guilt that is there. You may have had to decide to disconnect from the kind of like chains around you, with either your work or with your service to others. You may have had to detach, literally, like some of you, it's like someone going off to be a Tibetan monk rather than being in a community or something like that. That's a very specific reading of it, but I'm just trying to give you some examples. But you've done the work, you've already gone through that, and that's why however you're seen in this period of time, you won't really be affected by that, because you already know that this is the better way to serve others. This is the better career or work or vocational choice for you, that it will ultimately in the end prove to be the one that is stable and beneficial both to you and to others. And it comes from the heart. See, the interesting thing is people will feel you're detached, but the reality is everything comes from the heart, because in the 4th house you have the Knight of Cups. You are in fact a very loving person, but this is almost like whatever this is, whatever this break is, and it could be from a person or a group of people or a career or whatever it is, or it might be happening across all elements of your life. It's almost like with the Tower there around major change, and I'll get to that in a minute. It could be that it's touching in one form or another every part of your life. There's something major. You could be someone who was going through a major transition in who you are. You could be transitioning on a gender level, for instance, or something like that, or something that people will not understand, but which is true to your heart and which is necessary. And you are so strongly aware of that but other people are not yet ready, and and that's why we've got the strength reversed up in the externalized values and sort of philosophy. You're holding your strength back. You're allowing, in a sense, the views, they wash over you because you know where you're going. And in the long term, the rightness of what you're saying will become clear. And relationships at that point will be reborn. And the ones that are meant to be with you, whether they be romantic, whether they be people who then become followers of you, because I think some of you may create a kind of following out of this. Whatever it is, it will be much more grounded and much more true and authentic to yourself. And as I say, with the Wheel of Fortune in the 8th house, you know what's coming in the future. You're very psychic. You give yourself a hard time about it with the 8 of Swords, even though it's reversed in the 12th house. But I think you're starting to release that and find the freedom to understand that a lot of what you thought was just thoughts or opinions was actually something channeled, something you're starting to see how much you can see. If you wanted to play the stock market or something, you'd be brilliant at it, that kind of thing, because you really do understand the patterns of life and the patterns around resources and so forth. And there is a sense of great fate and fortune around your most intimate relationships and your most connected relationships. So it's a really fateful year. But you've felt it, you've known, and I think you've maybe tried to hold it off, but 2022, this is the year of the rebirth. This is the year of the phoenix rising from the ashes. This is the year of the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. And it will ultimately be really powerful and really wonderful, but it won't necessarily be understood at first. People will feel that in some level or in some way you are completely destroying a whole set of values, or that you're walking away from a job that was making you a lot of money, or relationships that were part of your sort of home life or something. There's something where people will feel that because the Tower energy is there. But one of the things I really love about the Tower card in this pack is it's not actually collapsing. It's lightning coming into what appears to be almost something ephemeral, almost something of the mind or the soul. So I really think in this pack it speaks to me as a soul revolution, a soul revelation as well. And so your values, you have been touched by something, some realization about yourself. And if this doesn't resonate, it's going to come in this year. Something is coming that will significantly change who you want to be in the world, how you want to relate in the world, what you value in the world, what you believe in the world. And you will have to go through a rite of passage where some people don't understand it. But know that you don't need to feel guilty about that. Know that you're coming from your heart, and know that ultimately it's going to ground. And the only thing that could go wrong is if you were overly bolshy about it, if you're overly sort of bashing up against this. It's like, it's the feeling of martial arts, where martial arts experts go with the energy that is coming to them from the opponent, and they work with that like a flow rather than pushing against it. That's what will give you the mastery of being able to deal with this. But it's significant, and it's very possible that quite a lot of the people who come to this reading in one way or another are going to have a major effect on other people through this, like be a role model in some way for change and authenticity. It's really powerful. I think it's really exciting, but it's not necessarily easy. So let's have a look at what the Stardust Tarot, let's ask Spirit for a little bit more advice or information on this significant year that 2022 is going to be for you. I'm getting that for some of you it might be a very significant year astrologically, like you could be someone who's having a Saturn return. So a Saturn return happens around about between 28 and 30, another one between about 58 and 60. So Saturn is all about the structures of life and beliefs of life and so forth. Or you could be having significant sort of Venus returns, or Mars potentially, because there's a lot of sort of like kind of energy around this. You know, something, there may be something really significant that's happening, or a Jupiter return potentially. Though Jupiter would feel a little bit less heavy. I mean, it's not really heavy, but it does have its challenges. You know, it's more of the oyster creating the pearl from the grit, rather than the easeful thing that Jupiter returns are. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you know your astrology chart of something significant happening, some really big significant transit is happening for you. But anyway, let's go back to the Stardust Tarot to ask Spirit for some more information for us. Let me just shuffle this again. Sorry, that I think that I didn't shuffle this enough in between, and I'm feeling like I've got some of the energy from the last reading still. Just bear with me for a second. It just didn't feel right. Okay, shuffle again. I did shuffle, but sometimes when you get two cards out in a row that are the same, you think, oh, I didn't shuffle as well as I could have. So, Spirit, give us some stuff for pile 3 here. Okay. Okay, so for a start, we've got a mirrored thing here with strength reversed twice. So that very much tells us that your externalized values is going to be very important. Spirit is very much saying that. And I think it's doubling down on the message that this can be an internal thing. I feel like the reversal is not about the lack of strength. I feel it is you holding your strength in regulation. You are being careful about how you deal with other people who maybe don't understand. You're being forgiving rather than combative and so forth. Because some people are just not going to get this, at least at first. With the Six of Pentacles reversed, some people who were in your corner, who were really supporting of you, will feel not so supporting. And you may, in fact, highlight that their generosity was tied up in some way. It was tied up on conditions that you believe the same way, that you were part of the same community, whatever it might be. And I think you're going to find that comes out. The beauty about it is there's great pragmatism that comes with that, with the Seven of Cups reversed. So you're no longer just hoping and wishing that things could be what you want. You've actually had the courage to look at what you want, particularly emotionally, and to let go of what isn't working. And that allows the star energy to come about so that you can have the hope to move forward. And you are going to need the star energy in 2022. Not that necessarily, as I say, it's going to be this terrible year. I think you're going to establish a lot and you're going to have enormous growth. But I do think you're going to have to deal with the slings and arrows a bit of people who don't understand what you're doing. And it's possible that some of them may use things like social media to question what you're doing, or that you've, as I say, crossed the lines in some way. So I'd be careful actually of social media. I'd lay pretty low on social media in 2022 in most cases, unless it's something you really need to do for your career or something like that. I feel like it's a little bit of a wild card as to whether it would treat you fairly. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the oracle cards that were intuitively chosen for this reading that was under the world card that brought you here. So firstly, some astrology energy for you. Okay, so we've got a couple of sun signs. So Gemini, that may be you needing to hold almost dual positions on things or appear one way while you're doing something else. This could be picking up the King of Swords reversed. It may be that sometimes people think that you're not being completely open because you're actually wearing the mask that you need to wear for whatever stage that you're at. And I think it's understanding that. I think that's part of this, is understanding sometimes that people aren't going to understand you because you wear a number of masks as you go through this, and you're not being duplicitous. It is possible, because the tarot card for Gemini is the Lovers, that this could pick up something around relationships, but I feel like this is much more fundamental, unless it's something about your preferences and so forth, which is major transition. And I guess it could be leaving a relationship, but it doesn't by and large feel like that. It just feels like this starts to bring you towards the right relationship for you, your soul twin potentially. And then Aries is all about that sort of strength and ambition. You will have the drive and the ambition to do what you need to do. The tarot card there is the Emperor, so you can be your own king. You don't have to worry about whether people don't like the way you're defining yourself. You can be your own emperor, your own king, your own leader. And with the celestial body of Mars there's a great deal of energy. This, as I say, there's a great deal of power in you. I think the strength reversed twice is just understanding, keep that under strict regulation. Only use it when you need to use it. This is much more a journey of the heart towards who you truly are. And in the end, the people who are right for you will see that. You don't need anything else. You just let go of. It's like the ones who push back really hard. You don't need to fight with them. You just need to disconnect. So let's have a look. We've got cards from the Heart Code Oracles, and also, from the Heart Code Oracles firstly, and we've got ones for relationship and for career. So for relationship, we have realization, and for career, we have resilience. Okay, so your relationships are going to be impacted by this realization you have about what is now true to you and true to your heart. They will impact relationships. It doesn't have to be love relationships. It might be. I think it's also realizing what is the most fruitful and promising type of love relationship to have and so forth, and how you want to be in relationships, and drawing that energy through and realizing that you can let go of the rest. But I do think a lot of this with resilience, because there is a need for resilience this year, is around your career. So I think a lot of it is around career or vocation in some way. I think most of you will work this out that way. But whether, as I say, it comes from community, political sort of, or even spiritual groups that impact somehow your vocation and how you are in the world, or whether it is literally just leaving a workplace or moving from one boss to another boss, or whatever it is, you do need some resilience as you go through this, because you're not going to be fully understood at first. I do think it will work its way through in 2022, and I think that the major changes that you're prepared to take on, that strength that you bring to it, is going to really flower. I really feel that the King of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles are really strong indications for you that with resilience and realization of what's true to you, you can't really go wrong. So let's see what archangel or spiritual support you have in this year. And we've got the Archangel Sandalphon, which is about music. It's an earth star, and it's about answered prayers. So that's interesting with the Hierophant reverse and all of this. I think being prayerful, connecting to whatever you believe in spiritually will really help you. Music might as well too, in a way of sort of soothing your heart as you're going through all of this. Music may be something. And I think with the Earth Star, it says that what you're doing is important for the Earth. It's important in some way that's bigger than you, that's transpersonal in some way. And I think that's what people will finally understand. They may at first think it's just about you, but it's about something bigger, and it's something that nourishes and helps the earth. That's why you'll be supported as you go through this. And it's why you have these enormous reserves of strength, but you've got the wisdom about how to use them. Let's see colour energy for you. Yeah, okay. So firstly, crimson, which is about atonement, karma, and penitence. Some of you may feel that this change was required because you felt that you let yourself down spiritually in some way, or you weren't true to yourself or true to your heart. Or it may be that some try to make you atone in some way, and you have to process that and let it go, not let it get into your day-to-day life. So it's going to be one or other. It's going to be either that you did feel guilty for something, you've processed that and worked through that already, or you will in the early stages of 2022, but you know that you have to move forward. You know that once you know what the right thing is to do, it's almost impossible not to do it. When we don't know, we can kind of guess and try things out, but I feel like you've come to a real realization, and you know what the right thing is, and you're not the sort of person who can ignore that, because you have true insight, true illumination, true reflection with silver. There's a psychic connection. As I say, I feel like you're very smart, and I think you're very psychically attuned, and that is going to take you through what could be a bit of a dark night of the soul year, but one which will ultimately be really, really beneficial for you. So timing is going to be important. So to finish off the reading, I want to have a look at timing. So I'm going to start off firstly with when is the real pushback going to come, and then I think we'll ask, when will the sort of reward come? So firstly, what's the timing around the pushback that you have to deal with in 2022? Okay, so it says after a big change and time to reflect. So that's telling me you're in the driver's seat. It's telling me that you will make the first big change that triggers all of this. It's not that people are just going to sort of suddenly change their viewpoint. There's something that you will do in 2022, whenever it is, that will bring this energy about, and you will have time to reflect on that. You don't have to act immediately. You are able to assess this and reflect on it and so forth, and you will have the time to do that. It's not, people will push back and whinge and complain a bit, I think, but I don't think that there'll be anything that's really destabilizing. You'll have time to process all of that. So then when will we see you coming to the fruition that the King of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles promises? So that's both in how, what you're communicating of yourself to the world and how you're relating to the world. Unexpectedly in 3 to 4 months. So I think what that's saying is that the breakthrough, when you really start to see, when the pressure starts to go off, it'll be unexpected. That tells me that this change occurs and you're reflecting on it and you're feeling this pushback from people, and then suddenly something shifts. It's like suddenly someone gets what you're doing. The communication, if you keep communicating the reason and what you're trying to create and what you're trying to do, unexpectedly it's going to give on some level. Someone's going to get it. Some friends or colleagues or whatever are going to have the aha moment. And within 3 to 4 months of that occurring, you will really start to see the new energy coming through and how you relate, how you communicate, how you can create things and get the fulfillment that is offered of this year. So you trigger it when you're ready. You make your change, you'll do whatever it is that you need to do to be more true to yourself when you're ready. You will have time to assess what's going on, and at some point you will see, probably when you least expect it, maybe when you think this is never going to shift, I'm never going to be understood, someone's going to come over to your side, and then within 3 to 4 months of that, you're going to really start to come to fruition and be seen to be the King of Pentacles, not either of these kings reversed. People will finally understand what you've been banging on about. They'll get it. They'll get you. So really big year. But I think it's positioning you. I think it's positioning you maybe for 2023. You don't get this sort of energy. You don't get this sort of personal transformation without you building an enormous spine, like an enormous sense of strength that I think will be for a purpose. And I think you're the sort of person who needs a purpose. So hang on for 2023. I think that's going to be an amazing year for you, but I think 2022, this is your rite of passage, and you will go through it with flying colours. So don't doubt that, and don't doubt yourself. All this is just white noise. You're meant to be following your heart and letting go of anything that is no longer emotionally resonant to you. So pile 3, it's a pretty big year. I do wish you very well with it, though I have a lot of faith in you. I think that takes a bravery that I think you have, that very few people have. So I really am kind of in awe of that, and in awe of you for that reason. I do wish you every support from all the archangels and all of spirit to go through this, because I think you'll be a role model for something really important. And I hope you enjoyed the reading, even though it was a little bit challenging. I hope that it resonates for you, and if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings.